Hello and welcome back to the part 2 of working on my 1998 Prado, and it's a petrol 3.4 V6. Now previously in the first part of this video I took apart everything to do with the timing belt and rocker covers and the intake. I spent around a day or two of cleaning literally everything I could, include the intake part, the surface part, because I had a bit of corrosion here, so same as there, and all the other bits. I spent hours and hours cleaning everything I could. Now the debris I had sitting around the intake, when I took the intake off, I thought it was all oil. It was a bit of oil, but mainly it was fuel leak. I had fuel leak through the rail here. I think I had bad washers here, and mainly all the o-ring that sits on the injectors, when I took them off, they were all cracked. So that was the issue. Now the other thing is that I would like to mention is this is the aftermarket gasket that you can buy from eBay or Amazon, and this is the factory one. So I end up buying the factory one. The reason I'm buying this is this one is just under 1 mil thickness, and it's one piece, nothing else. And you get the factory one, it's actually 3 pieces. It's a bit over 2 mil, which is good. And also, so you get the middle piece. It's hard to see here. So it's 3 pieces. The middle piece is where the metal part is, and the top and the bottom piece, it's like a carbon material, and I believe this, like I mentioned before, this material here is to stop the heat to be transferred from the engine or the block through the intake. So it kind of helps the intake to stay cool. The same thing was used in 1UZ and 3UZs and also 2UZs. So I ended up buying those. It was a bit pricey, but just by looking at this, I couldn't trust this. It doesn't look too bad, but it's one piece. Anyway, so the next bit will be obviously installing the intake. So one other thing that I did was I had to sand down all the surface part where the gasket sits. So I had to do the same thing on the engine and all the bits where the intake sits. The reason I did this was because if you look at here, it's hard to see, but if you look at here, I could see the previous leak where I had and the gasket didn't seal properly. Just right here, I can't get those off. It's like oil. Same as here, same as here. So now I've got a flat surface, which I'm happy with, and I'm going to install everything. Alright, so I'm applying a little bit of silicone, just where the corrosion is, not mainly on the ports. The ports they've got very nice smooth surface, just right around here. I'm not going to apply a thick layer, just a tiny bit. So the next thing will be replacing the coolant temperature sensor. So it has 2, one at the front, one at the rear. I believe the rear one with a single wire, that's for the cluster, and the other one will be for the ECU. So while I was taking this off, it actually broke. So I'm going to replace this right now. So That's the old one which broke, and that's a new one here, and that's a part number. Alright, so the half moon valve cover, rocker cover gaskets are being removed. You can actually wash those and reuse them because they are metal, they're not plastic. But anyway, I have purchased 4 new ones. They're not too expensive, so you can either use the old ones or you can go with the new ones. It's up to you. Right, so I went ahead and cleaned the gasket surface with the brake cleaner. So the only part that you need to use your silicone gasket will be where the half moon sit, which is right here, and also those 4 corners of your cam caps, both ends, just a little bit around the edge because the gasket actually cannot seal this part. But another big investment that worth doing on this job would be good rocker cover gaskets. So I went and bought the genuine parts. So for the gasket that goes on the spark plugs, which is those ends, that's a part number here. The old ones were cracked, and for the rocker cover, that's a part number there. So this is something that I don't want to go and get the aftermarket once, because this job is actually really, like, for example, if you want to do this end, you have to remove the intake. That end you can get away with it, but not this end. So might as well just go a good quality part so it lasts you forever, so you don't have to get this off again. Same thing with those genuine washers. The best thing to do is to go and get the genuine ones. Yes, they are very pricey, but you don't have to go through them every now and then. Once you did it, it gives you good mileage. Alrighty, so the spark plugs are actually not too bad. The brand is NGKR. They're made in Japan. They're still good. I remember I replaced those maybe 3 or 4 services ago. They're still alright, but instead I'm going to use those, which is made by Toyota. They factory recommended, Denso, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to put those in, and then I can keep those as a spare. I'm gonna start with putting the water pump in, and if you're wondering, here you go, this is the difference between the factory and the GMB brand. So the factory ones looks a bit bigger, but they should be alright. Alright, so it's time to put the tensioner, the bottom tensioner. Obviously it has one tensioner in this setup. Now I'm gonna do the same as how I took it off. So if you remember, I'm gonna explain this in case you missed it. If you remember, the front bolt, it's easy to get in or out. It's right here. So I did install the bottom bolt. And then you get the one at the back, which is the hard one. So it's really hard to see the bolt. It's really hard to have access to it. What I've done here is I have glued my 12mm socket into the bolt. The reason I've done it is because it's really hard to get that socket in when you want to undo it or you want to tighten it. So the bolt will be sitting just like that, and the angle that your tool come up is like this. So you'll be having your tool sitting like this angle and the bolt is sit right here. So it's really hard to find where your bolt is sitting at. The best way is I super glued this socket to the bolt, and then I have access from the bottom just a little bit to see the socket, and then get that in and call it a day. Let's do it. Alright, another day in paradise. So it was getting really dark last night, and it was hard to see. I end up putting the timing belt. I'm gonna go through the setup for the timing belt, and then I'll start putting everything back. Now the timing belt that I got, it's Gates brand, and the Gates brand actually they're really good, and also they do put the marks for your the timing marks, which is really good. Just remember, it says L and R, so L left and R is right. That's not your right, that's a right for the car. So technically this is my right, but it's the left for the cars. If you're in the car, that would be your left, if that makes sense. Now you got two marks here, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then you get a mark at the bottom of the belt. So I'm gonna explain this. It's a bit confusing. Now you get two marks on this pulley here. Now the mark for your belt will be the one here, which is exactly 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Okay, or 3 a.m. or whatever it is. And then you get the mark that you lined up your pulley before putting the belt. You get another mark sitting right underneath there. So one dot there, one dot here. The dot there will be 12 o'clock, the dot here is 3 o'clock. And that's how you line up your belt. So one here, one there, and one right here. Are we good? And now the main thing. Come on, buddy. Here you go. Alright, so, and that's the belt. Now it's nice and tight. The only thing I need to do is rotate it. One full rotation, or maybe two, to see if it's all good, it's clear, nothing hitting anything, no valve hitting pistons or whatsoever. So I'm gonna go do that and then start putting everything back. Alright, and that's a full rotation with no issue. Good news, huh? Alright, so before putting the top part of the intake, I need to connect a few hoses. So one of them will be the breather. So both sides, they've got breathers. The front one is this one, the rear one is on that. Sorry, the one on the left is this one. The one on the right is the other end. I am planning to go for an oil catch can, and the reason was because I have found oil in the intake system, and I'm guessing oil made its way from the breather all the way into the intake. So the breather that goes at the back, I bought a new hose for it. That's a part number there. They had cracks in them. I know it doesn't matter because they're just breathers for the intake, but anyway, I just bought one, so that sits right here. They don't need clamps or anything because they don't have a lot of pressure on them. So next, new gasket. Those gaskets are 2 layers. I bought the aftermarket because they looked exactly the same as the genuine. So they both, the aftermarket and the genuine, they're both metal and they're both 2 layers.